Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larby.
Derek, welcome to the show. How are you?
Beautiful, Sarah. How are you doing today?
Good. You know, we reconnected. Well, maybe we knew each other a little bit on Instagram, but we actually ran into each other a few times at Haggerty's, which is a social club that we're both part of. And I think we probably both
Yes.
around the same time as well.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of weeks before you.
Yeah.
I think we probably both got in when the fees were good because I think they just went up recently.
Yeah, I think so. But they're still good. I mean, if you think
No,
about
there's still the
so
value's there for sure.
it is Haggerty's, for those of you wondering, it's like this social club, like think yacht club, but for people that don't necessarily have yachts, but they have cars instead, or they have bikes, or they want to just come and hang out. And there's like virtual golf, and like there's a bar, there's a restaurant, you can have events there. And I love it because sometimes we make our office that boardroom, so we'll go there a few times a week with a team, and the food is pretty good. You can order, pretty much either on the menu or off the menu. And it's just nice to connect with people that, are also part of the club like yourself.
Yeah, and like-minded people for sure. And then they've also got the video games and the golf simulator if you need to take a break.
Yeah. And there's other like services. Like I got my car detailed there a few weeks ago. They had like somebody
Oh, I didn't
come
know
for
that.
Yeah, they did a really good job. So I like it. It's like, it's close by. It's like in Burlington. So, and I think for a social club, I think it's pretty reasonably priced, even with the
I do too.
increase. Awesome. All right. Well, you are here because we're going to talk about real estate, your story, your journey. Tell us a little bit about, who you are and how you got started in real estate.
Okay, so my entire professional career, so 21 years now, has been real estate investment focused. So when I was about, I guess, 16 or 17, and I know you like talking about this too, I dove heavy into mindset. I kind of adopted Tony Robbins as my mentor, but it was like a lot of book reading. I wasn't really speaking one-on-one, and spent several years just really focusing on just learning thinking strategies and how to communicate effectively with people and negotiating how to get what you want. I didn't know I was going to get involved in real estate at that time. I was just kind of finishing up high school. I went to college. I lasted about 30 days in business college. And then, I knew school wasn't for me. I knew I was very entrepreneurial driven. So I dropped out, and then I got a job working with Halton Regional Police Services. I was a civilian there for a few years. And as I was working there, I purchased a property in Carlisle. It was my first home, and it wasn't like real estate investment related. I had no real estate investing background, but a buddy of mine was living with me for a period of time, and he went off to work on cruise ships for a little while. And then he called me from port about, I guess, 4 weeks out from returning home, and he's like, "I bought this book. It's called Rich Dad Poor Dad Real Estate Riches." He's like, "You got to read it." He's like, "When I come back," he's like, "all I'm going to do is invest in real estate." So he was a really good friend of mine. I kind of took his word for it, and I picked up the book, and it literally became like my girlfriend, for lack of a better term. I spent my evenings reading the book. We sat down for dinner together. I would read the book, me and my book. Weekends, like instead of going out partying, I would just completely focus on investing in real estate, just strategies, reading, educating. And then when he got back, we worked on doing our first deal together. And long story short, it didn't work out between us, but then I got involved, investing in real estate on my own. So I went out, and my first rental property that I purchased, on closing, there were some title issues. So it actually was a bust, and the deal didn't go through. And then after that, I probably spent a good month searching again, and I got involved with a real estate agent who was very like real estate investor focused. And my first investment purchase that went through was 8 rental properties in the downtown core of Hamilton. And it was really eye-opening for me because I was young and very driven, but I wasn't, I had the book experience. I just didn't have the life experience, especially in the streets of downtown Hamilton at that time, because they weren't friendly places by any means. So my first deal I did 8, and then the second deal I did, I I took out a second mortgage on my house that I lived in, and I worked out a deal with an investor. His name was Ray. Gosh, I can't remember his last name, but he was used to be, I think, partners with the gentleman who owns Effort Trust. I don't know who owns it nowadays, but back then that was him. And I bought 15 of his rental properties at once.
Wow.
So it just within a very short period of time, and I was ramping up. I was getting excited, having a lot of fun doing what I was doing. And then my next set, I think I did 9 properties in one purchase. I just got very creative. And one thing I mean, everybody talks about in real estate investing is learning to buy with other people's money.
Mhm.
And so I just ran with those strategies. And I think the blessing for me at a young age, it's like, it's not knowing what you don't know. You know what I mean? Because if you think of all the limitations we've come up against in our real estate investor journeys now, if you knew what you did and like way back when, you wouldn't, like, you 9 times out of 10, you probably wouldn't start that journey. So
Yeah,
it worked out well.
that's true. So, okay, so you went and you bought chunks of properties
I
all
did.
at
Yeah.
once, and I'm sure people are listening to this right now being like, how do you go and buy 8 on your first one? How do you buy 9, on the next one? They're thinking one house at a time, but you're doing it in like probably a portfolio purchase. But give us some insights on that.
Yeah. So, gosh, years ago, let me kind of refresh myself here. The first couple that I met, they had one rental for sale that I went to see, and it was listed online. And I think they had 3 of them actually listed at the time. And, I learned through Tony Robbins that, connection and relationships, it makes a big difference in how you do business with people. So I asked the realtor to sit me down with the 2 homeowners, and, we ended up having just some friendly conversation, and they shared that they had a portfolio of about 8 they were looking to offload. So I arranged some, conventional financing with them, and then they held a VTB for the remainder of it. And, I don't know how I lucked out on that. I think I might have maybe used 20,000 in credit cards for a portion of the down payment, but it ended up working out that way.
The rest was what, VTB for the rest of the down payment, and then
Yeah,
conventional
was the
financing.
balance. And then the older gentleman that I purchased the 15 through, we used the second mortgage. Like, he put a second mortgage against my property and blanketed it across, the 15 that he had sold to me.
Okay, so how much of your own cash essentially did you have to use for that 15, that property purchase?
Nothing.
So
Nothing.
you're starting out, and you're obviously, you've got the mindset piece, you got the Tony Robbins, you've read,
Yeah.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Tony Robbins all the way.
Where are you getting like the strategy from? Because that's a pretty advanced, opportunity or strategy for somebody. And even the VTB piece and having that conversation directly with with the sellers. Did you have a team? Did you have a coach? Did you have, just tons and tons of experience by your Googling, real estate on the weekends?
So I'll say this. I really obsessed with respect to my education. I really obsessed with it, but there is a very big difference between street experience and book experience. So what worked out well for me back then, and this is early 2000s, I think like 04, 05 or something. The banks were very, very lenient with respect to how they handed out mortgages. So, it's so different nowadays, but I'll talk about that strategy later as how I kind of adapted to that. Very, very, very tight nowadays to get mortgages, but way back when, you could get 2 or 3 at a time, no problem. And then the broker could go to another bank and get me 2 or 3 more mortgages and keep going and doing that. Nowadays you can't do that. Like that strategy doesn't really work. So a lot of how that all worked out for me, aside from experience, a lot of it was luck and timing. And the agent I bumped into, the people who were selling was a big part of it. And also the broker that I was using.
But you know what? I believe luck is created, and you create your luck by the actions that you take, and the things that you do. So yes, everybody has that opportunity to have luck, but I just, I think you also associated yourself probably with some of the right people. You had the right conversations, and you brought some, I think, negotiation skill sets to the table, and likely a few other things too. So, and I think it's just important to say like that was great then. It doesn't mean that there's not opportunities today of pivoting and doing something
Oh,
different, right? So if
there's
someone's listening,
tons of opportunities.
and if someone's listening to this, be like, oh, well, it was easy for him because banks were, yeah, they were more lenient. And are they going to be, better or worse in 10 years? Who knows? I mean, this is a long game, right? And there's still things, I mean, even today, you're buying a resort, you're buying a bunch of other stuff, so there's opportunities in every single market and every single lending strategy. And it's just about taking action and creating your own luck. So, do you mind sharing, like, I mean, obviously you've scaled quite massively, I think, since then. What is your strategy today? Where did you pivot to?
Well, I'll start with this. So just with respect to what you're saying about, luck is created, I very much do agree with that. I'm a very solution focused person. And, my one thinking, like one mental kind of, what am I trying to say here? My kind of a mindset strategy for myself is that, this saying I have, it's only one more no till I get my yes. So even when something isn't seemingly working out in a deal, I do focus on, how to find a solution for that until I get the solution I'm looking for. But no, it wasn't like people can say, yes, it worked out well because of, the banks back then, but I fell flat on my face at, I think about 26. I owned about 34 properties at the time, and I went bankrupt for about $2 million. And it wasn't because my investment strategies didn't work. It wasn't because I was uneducated. It wasn't anything to do with external factors. It was everything to do with me. I was taking in my rental income. I wasn't like, I didn't have spreadsheets to calculate anything, and I was having more fun with my money rather than paying for my responsibilities. So about the age of 20, I think, 25, 26, all within like a 6-month period. I was the primary caregiver for my dad for about 4 years as he was kind of, becoming ill, and then eventually passed on. So all within 6 months, I went bankrupt for $2 million. I actually bankrupt my mother. She was a part of that deal. My father passed away, and then my girlfriend and I of 3 years had broken up. So it was kind of a lot that all happened at once. So I went from owning millions of dollars in real estate to literally nothing. I managed to save my mother's equity in her property. There were some shady lawyers that were involved on trying to take some of her money when it didn't really involve her. So anyways, I managed to get rid of that, but I did rebuild after that. So, sorry, refresh me on your question again. I was kind of going off there, but
No, but you know what? Let's talk about this because, I was talking about how you strategized and you pivoted, but
Okay.
let's talk about the bankruptcy first, because
Yeah.
I think this is like a good wake up for many people, especially as we're coming into some weird times right now. So you're saying the bankruptcy for you, it was based on like spending too much and not paying attention
Yeah.
to what was happening essentially. And so when did you actually realize that like you were in the hole? Like, did somebody tell you? Did mortgages come due? Like, what was the actual like pivot point on that?
No, I I I knew for a while that, I wasn't doing the right thing, and I was fortunate enough to be involved with vendors who are holding, um, take back mortgages, like first and seconds for me. So I mean, it definitely wasn't as bad as it could have been. Um, but gosh, sorry, ask the question one more time, just so I can make sure I'm on track here.
What was the turning point? Like, was there one day that you're like, I'm actually going to have to declare bankruptcy? Like, it's so bad that I can't make these payments. Like, what, like,
Okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
like
I have
what happens?
so
Like,
many thoughts on the go.
right? Because it's probably not just one day it comes to it, but like there might be like one main thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a mortgage call, like being called, or like just something that happened that you're like, I have to declare bankruptcy at that point.
Yes. Okay. So I wasn't keeping tabs on my money, which was one thing. I had about 100, I think just over 100 rental units at that time across all my properties. And there were several less than level tenants in those properties. So Hamilton, I mean, as much as Hamilton's a big city, it's a very small city. So when a lot of tenants found out what was going on, a lot of them just stopped paying. So things kind of added up. And because I was very physically and mentally exhausted for taking care of my father and whatnot, I probably just took the easy way out, which I mean, bankruptcy doesn't seem like it's easy, but it is pretty easy in a lot of ways. So that was kind of that turning point. But I ended up taking probably about 8 months, maybe to a year off of investing from real estate. So I went from nothing, and then I bumped into a buddy of mine who used to do a lot of the contracting work on my rental properties. And it was weird. I'm not religious by any means, but he was with his minister that day, and I was talking to him about, I've given up on real estate investing. I'm just going to kind of focus on a new career. I'm not sure what it is yet, blah, blah, blah. And the minister put his hand on my shoulder, and I got the weirdest chills. And he's like, your real estate career is far from over. He's like, you need to get back involved right away. And it was just strange because of the chills he gave me when he said it. And so yeah, I guess maybe about a month later, I ended up picking up another property. So I go from this like bankruptcy to just like my father passing away, and I was very unwell for a while, and then I'm at this fork in the road. And it's either I choose failure or I choose, what's the other one? Fill in the blank.
Or success.
No, prostitution. And this is where the story gets interesting. I'll fill in the gaps there because I wasn't a prostitute, but the market was very, very saturated with respect to contractors and investors when I got back into the market after kind of like bouncing back. And this was, I think, maybe like 09 or 10 or 09 or 2010. And I still knew a lot of people in the streets of downtown Hamilton. Like when you're I'll call it like, I was a landlord, but a slumlord for a lot of my properties for a long time. You just understand the thinking and where to find good deals. So I would go speak with prostitutes in the streets, or I would speak with just a homeless person. And I would offer them like lunch or coffee, maybe like 10 or 20 bucks just to sit down and have a conversation. And I would ask them where they're living, how many dilapidated homes they knew of, if they could get me a list of contact numbers, and that I would pay them for every deal that I did. So a number of them, I actually ended up paying several people $1,000 cash per deal that they got me. And I mean,
that's a very unique strategy. And kudos to you for that's like way outside the box thinking.
Very, very. And I mean, I don't recommend it for anybody. Like it can be very dangerous. So I mean, you're definitely not going to go meet those people and go into any homes that you don't know the people you're going into and don't understand, the kind of the street language and whatnot. But it was funny enough because I got my mother involved, and I would set her up in a certain area of a couple blocks, and I would do another, and she would just let me know, okay, I'm going towards these houses now, and I would keep tabs on her. But we did 9 wholesale deals in one summer. And we made hundreds and hundreds of thousands just doing that. And then the lady Barbara in the Bixie was the one who put me in contact with you. She did her first wholesale deal through me. And it was funny because I owned the Dream Center, which is like a children's sports activity plex. And she brought her children there, and she saw me one day and she's like, hey, I've seen your stuff on Instagram and kind of like the real estate stuff you do. She's like, how do you do that? Like, I just have a couple questions. I own a couple properties. And I just gave her like a very simple, kind of just like spreadsheet to go by, or just a couple rules to go by in terms of finding wholesale properties. And she found one within, I think it was like 24 hours of a work week. Well, like it'll be the equivalent of a 24-hour work week. She found her first deal. And I invited that gentleman who she had met in the street downtown Hamilton. He was renovating one of his rental properties, and he was eventually going to sell it. But I invited him up to the Dream Center, and the three of us sat down. And it turns out he owned the property across the street. And in my Instagram, the story's way down there, but it's there. It's her and I standing beside each other, just smiling in a selfie. But I think we ended up buying both of his properties in the one deal. I think she made about 85,000 in her first wholesale.
Amazing. That's cool.
Yeah, she did really well.
So, how was it to start buying with a bankruptcy on your file? Like, did you have to get creative there as well from a financing standpoint?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So this is where my strategy changes, for the people who are like, okay, the banks aren't so easy to get along with anymore. What do I do? Well, I had that challenge on top of, I didn't have, what's it called? I had the bankruptcy, and then I didn't have, what's it called? I mean, I didn't have money to use again still. And the banks aren't supportive at this time. So this is how I do like every one of my deals today. And I mean, very experienced investors, you can certainly get creative, but especially for newer investors, it's all how I enter my entry strategy. It's all how I enter a deal. So, back when I was doing deals before I went bankrupt, if I made like 20, 30, 40,000 in like a flip or something, that would be good to me. But now, I mean, I've set my standard way higher, and what I like to do is I like to find deals that have a ton of value already built into them on closing. So like, I'll give you a specific example. We owned an industrial building where our operating business was the Dream Center at the time. And, it just worked out where we were having some legal issues regarding, our zoning and kind of the gray area around that. But the neighboring building had called me up and asked if I wanted to be a tenant and just kind of like dump off those issues in our current building. And I said, well, no, I'm very much interested in keeping my current building. And I said, I'd like to move into your property, but I'd like to purchase it. And when we were having a conversation about pricing, he offered me a price for a building that was literally double the size of the one I currently own, but it was only a few $100,000 more than what I paid for the other one. So I knew he didn't understand the value of this building. So I did some assessments. I brought in a realtor that I trusted in the industrial market. I kept this information myself, but he was confident that I could get $4 million for that building all day. And he was right too. So I went to a couple of investors that I knew, and I said, look, I have this opportunity. I can double, triple, quadruple the size of my business if I move into this place, and the zoning works, and it gives me all sorts of other opportunities to grow the business. And they went for it. I mean, that might be a bit of a big example to go by, but even street walking downtown Hamilton and just kind of revamping my strategy, I would find homeowners who just really, really either didn't understand the value of their property, or they were really happy to get a specific price. And if I knew the value was here. So my mother, she goes knocking on this guy's door one day. And I don't know what she was even thinking by approaching this guy's house, because, it was filthy and very unsafe. So she asked this gentleman who was just at his front door if he'd be interested in selling his property. And he said no, but he said he knew of a lady up the street who would sell her property, but she would only sell it for 85,000, not a penny less. And it was garbage. We wouldn't want it anyways. So my mom told me about this property. I literally had a purchase sale agreement down to this woman's house within like 45 minutes, an hour. And I knew I could get double or triple that price in that day. So if I was to go get financing, I just go to one of my private lenders and they would give it to me.
Okay.
So, and this story's in my Instagram as well, but, we ended up agreeing to, I think it was maybe 87,000. I let her live there for like 6 months for free. And then I ended up selling it for, I think, 188,000 just several months later.
So you bought it from her, she lived for free, and then you sold it, and then she willingly moved out?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got lucky, because I don't know if that works as well anymore these days.
Yeah, it might be a little bit different, but anyways, my my strategy now is making sure that I buy into something with a ton of value. There's so many investors who are new to this. And I mean, like, there's a big wave of new investors out there, very excited to get into the real estate investing market. And they just want to get into their first deal. And they're usually leveraged to the hilts, or they don't know what they're doing. They buy something where the value's not there. For any real estate investor, take your time, find something that you know you're going to make hundreds of thousands or millions the day the deal closes. Not unlike a build out or renovate or BRRRR or anything like that. Just make sure the value is built in now. And then after you'll never get denied financing ever.
Right. I mean, like you said, the properties may or may not even qualify for a typical bank lender anyway. So you definitely want to have your private lenders lined up or private options lined up. But are you finding that the majority of the deals that you've purchased were off MLS, like they were from your own, digging around, talking to people, off market?
Yeah, very. I would say. So I've owned over 100 properties to date, and everything. I mean, like 90+% is off market. Everyone either owns a property or rents a property. And if they don't own or rent, they live with somebody who owns or rents. So you can talk to literally everyone. Everyone is involved in real estate. So there's opportunity everywhere you go. I bought negotiated deals in the streets. I've negotiated deals at social functions. I've negotiated deals at bars. I mean, everywhere, grocery stores, you name it.
So what are some things, because I mean, somebody that's just starting out, right? Like, how do they know what the value of something is if the deal is actually good? Like, what are maybe some tips that you can provide?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of understanding values, if I'm researching a specific market, I do spend a lot of time on MLS just to see kind of what's out there and what has sold. I mean, I'll call up a realtor friend of mine and ask them to pull comparables or what sold in the last 60, 90 days in a specific price range, maybe even the past year or two. You really need to understand your market though. You need to understand if there's opportunities for growth in that market. When I got involved in Hamilton years ago, I think it was projected to be the #1 growing city in Canada around that time. Right. So that was a market I wanted to be involved in. Just as kind of all the COVID nonsense went on, a lot of people were moving north. So I capitalized on some just smaller properties up there, but I definitely got in low and the prices have gone quite a bit higher. They've adjusted a bit, but that's okay. But yeah, definitely understanding your market, MLS, get involved with realtors, get involved with groups of people like yourself. I mean, for somebody to get in touch with you, like your network's massive. And if someone's looking to acquire a property or do their first deal and really do well on it, they might not have the skill set or the knowledge to get involved in something as big as they'd like to, but they can definitely get involved with somebody like yourself or myself who has the experience and has the financing to get it done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point. Now, do you think the opportunity is still in it sounds like you're not necessarily doing conversions, or maybe you are, I don't know. But what is the strategy today that you bought the resort? Let's talk about that. But I mean, other than the resort, what is the strategy that's working for you today? Other than obviously buying a good deal at the start. Are you flipping them? Are you renovating them? Are you burring them? Are you converting?
Yeah, I don't typically like to sell my real estate too often because I leverage against it so much to get other deals done. And yeah, my strategy, I don't really have, I don't do flips. I don't really do burrs. I mean, I did years and years ago, but my hands are very, very soft now. And I don't like to get them dirty. So if I'm ever wearing dirty clothes, I'm just pretending to work hard. But yeah, the strategy I really kind of focused on is finding a deal that has a ton of value built into it. So like my portfolio right now, I've got the resort, which we'll talk about. I've got some industrial properties, warehouse. I've got a building right now. It's 10 units, which is being converted to 178 condo units. I've got some single family, multifamily.
Okay.
But all these deals, again, it wasn't my main strategy was how am I getting into the deal?
Yeah, so it sounds like it's probably deal dependent, right? Like you're looking at
Yes.
every single opportunity as its own deal. You're looking at like commercial, you're looking at industrial, you're looking at everything and seeing what makes sense. Are you in Ontario only? Have you expanded out of out of the province?
Yeah, I haven't expanded out yet. I'm sure I will at some point soon, but I have a few pretty big deals on the go, and they're close by, and I'm very confident that they're going to do very well. So, yeah, I guess when the opportunity arises, I mean, I'm not closed off to that. I should probably update my passport. That would help. But how
Oh,
about you?
I mean, I'm actually highly looking at a few areas right now.
Okay.
I still like Ontario, but I don't think it's after what happened in the last couple of years, without getting political. I think if Trudeau gets back in, I have to have an exit plan after this next election. So
Yes, good point.
yeah. So, but and there's a lot more control in some areas. However, I do like the opportunity that Ontario has in terms of the low vacancies and
Yeah.
the rent increases year over year, as long as you don't have a tenant that stays too long. And I like the appreciation over time, and there was still some good cash flow. Like, granted, rates are higher, but I think they'll come down a little bit. But on that note, before we get into the lightning round, tell us about like your latest resort project.
So actually, funny enough, Richard here. My lawyer called me on this deal. It was a client friend of his who's owned, I think he's owned the resort campground for about 7 years. And a really good guy with good intentions, but just really not good at managing people in the business or his clients. Just not an effective communicator that way. So my lawyer called me because of our ownership in the Dream Center. I mean, we had taken a dance studio of about 60 kids, and we grew our business to 4,000, almost 5,000 kids annually. So he knew that I had a lot of experience in family focused businesses. So he put me on the phone with this gentleman, and it took about 3 or 4 weeks negotiating. But I had to understand his business. I had to understand his language and definitely speak it back to them so we could be on the same page about where we were going with things. But what worked out really, really well in this opportunity is that he did not have the money, or I would say the will, to go on in his business anymore. And so he had two options. He either had to work, with a very aggressive purchaser, or he was at great risk of losing his property. So I ended up purchasing. The park is about 185 units. I checked out. You can bring in far more electrical, so I can upgrade that significantly. I can put it to well over 200 units. So when we were negotiating, we set a VTB structure on the deal because he had to get out of it, and he didn't want to run it anymore. So we negotiated a deal of 3.8, and he's holding a vendor take back mortgage for 2.3 million for 7 years at 0% interest. So I had to call up my investors that I know who lend on most of my deals, and they gave me a first, plus they gave me money to just start the renovations on the property. And so more of like a construction loan, and we can build on it as we go. And then I didn't have to put any money down, and my investment money went ahead of his, and then his mortgage behind mine. So I have a 7-year mortgage term with that property for 7 years at 0% interest.
In second position for him.
In second position. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's probably like the deal of the decade.
It is. I actually, you know what? A lot of it really comes down to your belief systems. And I really believe to my core, like, you could hook me up to a polygraph and ask me whether or not I feel like amazing deals fall in my lap. And I would say yes, and would come out as true. Like my 10-unit building in downtown Dundas, that's being converted to a condo complex. I got the sellers of that building to agree to a 4-year mortgage. The first year was 0% interest. No, first 2 years, 0% interest. And then years 3 and 4, I think it was 3% in year 3 and then 4.5% in year 4. So that was another amazing deal. And I put that one up for sale. I bought it for 2.6 or 2.7. I put it up for sale 30 days after I purchased it, and for $5 million. And I had 3 offers, one for 4.25, one for 4.6, and another one for I think 4.8. But I didn't sell it.
That's awesome. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
now
that's
you're building
expensive
something
to go.
bigger and better. And so your $4 or $5 million offer could be many, many more millions.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's your, what's your plan for the resort? Like, so when you're saying like units, are these like trailers?
Yeah. So we have trailers and cabins on the property currently. We have 74 acres. The park is currently operating on about 20. And then the rest of it's kind of like trails and ATV paths and rivers and streams and whatnot. But the plan will be to, I don't know if I want to give this away because I know you're a direct competitor.
I mean, I feel like ours is like, you're in a different area, I think too, but anyways, go ahead.
Yes, it's all good. I will be doing a bunch of tiny type retreats.
Cool.
So properties that you can live in all year round, but they're going to be a very custom experience. So we'll maximize the use of the land with trailers, and then what are they called? Like park models where you can stay all year round. But we'll also do like more mini cabins, and we have these very cool experiences we're working on. I won't give all that away right now, but people will have the opportunity to either live or stay there short term. And it's just going to be stunning.
That's
the
awesome.
landscape is beautiful there. So there's a lot to work with.
Very cool. Now, are you bringing investors into that, or it's strictly just, you're doing it with the private money and then the VTB?
No. So I think I told you before, I typically do not do partnerships. But I mean, there's it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, you get more in a deal when you work on your own, but you can typically, you can miss out on larger deals if you don't have people involved with different skill sets. So I actually I developed a relationship with another like-minded investor, and he has a ton of landscaping experience. I mean, has the landscaping company, a very successful one with his wife. And so he's in on the deal with me. And then I have, it just worked out well because we sold our Dream Center business back in November. My 2 kind of main girls, the general manager and the lady who was like director of first impressions, they agreed to leave their current jobs and come work with me. So I've got my partner, Mark, who was a huge asset to the team. I've got my 2 main girls who are just, they're wonderful people. Like, they really made that Dream Center business successful when I wasn't there. They were just like my eyes and ears on everything. And then my cousin is there with his family. They're living on site, and they're going to be doing kind of like the grounds work and upkeep and whatnot. So we have an incredible team of people. It just worked out really well.
Awesome. Where is the resort?
We are in Marlborough. So it's kind of east of Peterborough, north of Belleville.
Okay. All right. I'm going to be waiting for my invitations.
Yes. Not too close to Inspire, but I do actually have a very big deal that I'm working on in that area right now.
Yeah, because you sent me a message on Instagram of our resort billboard, and you're like, I'm driving by. I'm like, oh, just let me know. I'll let you know where the keys are. You can grab them and take a look. But you already gone. So that's not closed yet, or like, can you talk about that, or like just
no, not yet. Not yet. It's massive though. It's amazing. I'm very excited to talk about it. I just can't yet, but I can come to you first. I can give you that.
So, I mean, look, here's what I love about it, right? You started big, you lost it all, and now you grew it. It was a mindset piece. It was a strategy. It was taking action, and you're like way further than maybe you would have ever been if you hadn't gone through those struggles and realized, what you did wrong to establish the processes and the systems and what you needed. So, like, it's a very inspiring story. They got to have you on like more stages and stuff and share that because, thank you for being very, very open and, and candid. And it's not always easy to talk about, going through bankruptcy and losing it all and starting from scratch. But,
it was embarrassing for a bit. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't think it's embarrassing at all, but it is a big challenge for someone to go through. But I think it was an amazing lesson, and then building my confidence back after that, knowing that I could go through something like that and then rebuild. And what's really kept me on track was when when I bankrupted my mother, that was like, my mother was like everything to me. And I mean, still is, but bankrupting her was kind of like the biggest hit for me. So my motivation moving forward was I wanted my problems to be so big that mom couldn't fix them anymore. You know what I mean? So it was just like, I mean, I could go to mom back then and be like, hey, I need to, catch up on a couple of payments and she could help out. Now she can't do that. So I'm very motivated to stay where I am. And it also burns to think about all those properties that I purchased in downtown Hamilton for years under 100,000. Like most of them were around like 30 to 50,000.
And she helped you, right? She walked the streets with you.
She did. But you think of like all what those properties are worth nowadays, but anyways, is what it is.
And you know what? In 10 years, 20 years from now, I mean, again, who knows what's going to happen, but I think we'll probably be in a similar situation where we'd be like, oh, we used to buy these at 500 or 600. Now they're $1 million,
That'll definitely be the case.
So awesome. All right. So the next part is our lightning round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You can give me the first answer that comes to mind. Are you ready to play? All right. So here's question number 1. Was your favorite real estate investing book?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Real Estate Riches by Robert Kiyosaki, for sure.
All right. That was your game changer from the beginning.
It's a simple, basic read. Yeah, it's very useful. I recommend it.
Awesome. Now, I don't know if you're a podcast listener other than real estate, or you can say real estate if you want, but it doesn't have to be. Do you have a favorite podcast?
Oh, you know what? To be honest, I don't. With the workload that I have, I don't spend too much time online with podcasts, but I still listen to the Rich Dad channel quite a bit. And there's another one, Real Estate Focused, with Ken McElroy. He's got a lot of value there. I catch your real estate podcast when I have some time there too. And there's a lot of value. I met some of your speakers and they're really wonderful people and really know what they're talking about. But that's all real estate focused. I stay very focused in real estate.
Okay, awesome. And Ken McElroy, I think he wrote a book too on like advanced multifamily, and that's kind of like his niche, right?
Yes, yeah. And I think he still is partners with Robert Kiyosaki on some things.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, what do you do for fun? So you said you work a lot and you do a lot of real estate, but there's got to be some fun in life, right?
You know what? I was wondering if you were going to ask me this question, and I thought about it a lot. And gosh, I enjoy time with family. I was trying to think like, what's fun that I do? My work is fun to me. But aside from that, if I'm going to try to like just try and think something on the spot, like I've got a cottage up north. I like going ice fishing with friends. There's boating in the summertime, skiing in the wintertime. I definitely love spending time outdoors. So the kind of resort model that I'm working in now is good for me.
Awesome. Very cool. Number 4, if you lost everything tomorrow, which you actually did, actually a very suitable question in a sense, but the regular question is, if you lost everything, all your assets, all your money tomorrow, how would you start again?
I would go back to prostitution. I go back to my prostitution strategy. I honestly, I'd be in the streets. I would be willing to take on a challenge. If someone bet me that I couldn't find a deal in a week in downtown Hamilton, I bet you I could.
Okay.
I would just go right downtown Hamilton and I would find a deal. There's so many opportunities in any city, and it would just be a case of having conversations with as many people as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say now is a lot easier than it probably was in 2021 and the beginning of 2022 as well, when everybody was and their brother and cousins were trying to buy real estate. So
yeah, it was challenging that way. And I mean, a lot of the sellers nowadays too, they're still trying not to let go of some of those past loan prices, but the market is definitely shifting. Yeah. So I mean, if somebody's going out and finding deals off market, on market, but either way, they need to really be certain about where the value of that property is and where the market's going.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And last question, somebody has $50,000. They want to get started in real estate in some way or another. How would you recommend they spend that 50 grand?
Well, I would suggest that you put, or is this person educated in real estate investing at this point, or they just got 50 grand to start?
They're a podcast listener and they've got 50 grand in their pocket.
Okay.
Or in a checking account or something.
Yeah, I would spend a good 10 grand on investing in your education, finding a strong mentor. And then I would sock the other 40 grand away, because if you, and when I say sock it away, I just mean don't use it. Keep it aside for kind of a rainy day, because when you go out and you really find deals and value in them, you don't need your own money.
All right, cool. I love it.
So I've invested for over 20 years, and every one of my deals has been financed through my real estate transactions. It has nothing to do with my own money. I've never had a job to pay for my deals.
Okay.
Other than when I was 18, that was just my first house.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, thank you for playing the lightning round.
Yeah.
Where can my listeners, Derek, find out more about you? I know you mentioned Instagram, but what is the best place to reach out?
Yeah. Instagram. So it's just my name. It's Derek_Conorton. So DEREK_CON or TON.
All right, awesome. Any final last words of advice?
Gosh, no. Yeah. Stay educated, have lots of conversations, and mindset is key.
All right. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. There's like tons of ways we could have taken the, different conversations. And because you have so much experience, we'll have to have you come back, share your experience with like, even just like the industrial stuff. That sounds awesome. And get some update on the new deal as things come into fruition.
Yeah, of course. And thank you very much for having me. And I'll look forward to seeing you, I think, next week at Haggerty's.
Awesome. Yes. If you guys are interested and you're in the area, we are doing events now at Haggerty's every month. We might take a little break in the summer, but reach out to us for that. So thanks so much, Derek.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks, Sarah. See you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larby. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?